Welcome back to Nightly Nonsense, where we try to make some sense out of some of the nonsense all around us. You know, you and I are again sitting and witnessing the world like it has never been before. Now, you might go, wow, that's a profound thought, or you might be, duh, Andy, that's just a true statement. It is true. The world has never been like it has been right now. There are similarities. There are things we can draw on. There are things that we can look back to and go like, oh, same kind of ideas, same kind of thoughts, same kind of speech, same kind of actions. But the world has never been like it has been right now. That should cause us to stop and think for a second. Right? That if we have never been here before, how do we know what here is? How do we know where we're going, what we're supposed to be doing with here? The idea is that you and I are to be looking to, right, a higher power. Now, for us, that's God, right? That's God the Father, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, right? That's God the Father, who sits above time, who sees the whole picture and sees everything, and he knows exactly where we are, and he knows exactly what's going on, and he knows exactly what's needed. So that should get you and I to the question as to, would you rather follow a bunch of people who have never been here before, or put your trust in somebody who created all of this, right? Created where we are right now, allowed this to happen, and knows where we are and where we're going. Like, which one would you follow? Well, of course, that's a no-brainer for most of us, right? You're not going to follow somebody who's never been somewhere before if you have somebody who knows what's going on. Yet every day, we find ourselves watching the news, paying attention to things, and listening to people who have no clue where we are or what's happening right now. They pretend, and they do good sometimes by looking back and going, hey, this looks familiar to where we were here and here and here. You ever notice that experts are never experts in the moment, they're experts in the past? We have an expert in God in the present. Oh, by the way, the past and the future. But he is in the present. He's an expert at everything that you're going through right now. He is an expert at where you're going through is going to take you. But we're listening all the time to people who are experts in the past. Not because they necessarily successfully went through even the past, because they just went through it and they learned from it, and now they're talking about it. So we need to get a proper perspective. If you want to make some sense out of the nonsense around you, you need to take a step back and say, listen, I need to put my trust, my hope in someone who actually knows about the present. Not just predicting the present or the future, but knows about it, has been there. So when things happen, when things go awry, when things, right, just are seemingly all over the place and we just don't know what to do, we look to the one who does know what to do, right? We can read all the stories about how he worked in the past, and that helps us with the present. But it doesn't work if you don't believe that he's the same God that he was in the past. Is he still doing the same things? Is he still going to be the same God? That's probably why one of the most significant verses in the Bible talks about God being the same yesterday, today, and forever. He isn't going to change. So we can look at how he worked in the past, and here's what we know for sure. God's going to work. He works all things for good, right? Out for good for those who believe, right? He works it all out. We know that. Why? Because we can look back and we can look at all these examples of God doing great things, right, in really ugly, crummy, terrible moments. But you have to actually believe in that God. You have to actually believe that he wants to do that. And by the way, nobody thinks it's fun during a time of trial or testing. None of these guys in the Old Testament are going like, yeehaw, woohoo. Paul says, I count it all joy that I get to suffer for the cause of Christ. But I bet you Paul had some moments where this isn't fun. It's not fun being stoned, left for dead out of the city. That's not a fun moment. I mean, we want to cherry coat it and say, yeah, well, Paul didn't feel any of the stones and all those things. Well, that's a pretty good fake job of acting as if you're dead, right? They thought he was dead. They stopped stoning. So we need to understand that as we're looking at all the nonsense around, and there's a lot. We could point out all kinds of stuff here, there, and everywhere. But as we look at all this nonsense, if we want to make sense out of it, we better turn to the one who knows about our present. He knows about my next word. He knows about the next thing we're going to do. He knows all of these things. And he knows the future. We better not turn to people who are trying to predict the future based on what happened in the past. There's value in that, but that is not certainty. It's not going to get you through. We love reading about how other people made it through trials that we're going similarly. But the problem is then we lock God into, you got to work this way. This is what you're going to do. Oh, you got this person through cancer in this many weeks. And you got this person financially, you wrote them a check on day 2. And this person, the relationship just went, oh, and they're all better. That doesn't mean that that's your present. That's somebody else's present that now is in the past. But your present, what you need to stand on is God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he works all things out for the good of those who believe. So, do you believe? Do you believe that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever? That while he's not going to script out your salvation plan out of whatever mess you're in, he's promising that he's going to work it out by working you through it. Not around it, but through it. So you want to make some sense out of the nonsense around you. Know that God is going to work you through, right? The nonsense. So that on the other side, you can say, like so many other people have said, man, God works all things out if we just have the faith. Hey, we'll see you next time. Nightly Nonsense.